Hello, my name is Jay Carpenter. I'm founder of PHONEWORD Workshops and I'm a member of PHONEWORD Workshops LLC. And today we're doing our weekly session, which happens every morning at 9 a.m. Arizona time or 9 a.m. Pacific time on Thursday mornings, which is noon Eastern time. And these sessions are designed to be short sessions that just focus on a small portion of the decentralized web, as well as the PHONEWORD Workshops global directory, and why this could be of interest to you. So before I get into the actual presentation, I'm going to jump right to the heart of the matter and do a little screen sharing, a little demo, so you'll see why this is worth your time to watch and participate in. So we start our screen share. And this is a set of terminals. It's actually two Raspberry Pis that are connected together in a completely decentralized fashion. And Randy's just joined us. Switch back over to me. I'm in the middle of a demo, Randy. So let's talk about why this is of value to you. We're going to show two Raspberry Pis that can talk to one another in a decentralized way that is outside of the normal connection that we experience on the internet. And one of the advantages of this decentralized approach to messaging is that you can communicate without this data being tracked. So let's just go ahead and show how this works. So you can see over here in this realm, we've got a particular Raspberry Pi that's connected to the PHONEWORD Workshops channel, 1111 PHONEWORD Workshops. And over in this section, we have another Raspberry Pi that's also tuned into the same channel, 1111 PHONEWORD Workshops. And if I go over to this first Pi and I put in a command and we put in a message, because Randy just joined us. I'll put in from Pi 1 and we enter hello, or we press the enter command, and you can see here the message has appeared on the Raspberry Pi that this was sent from, and then over here it was received on this Raspberry Pi number 2. And I'm going to show you this Raspberry Pi number 2, which we call a Canary, in just a moment. But now let's send a message from the Canary, the Raspberry Pi number 2, to the Raspberry Pi number 1, and we put in another similar command. For a demo. And voila, you can see that that message is sent from this Raspberry Pi number 2 to this Raspberry Pi number 1. It's very much like a digital citizen band radio channel. This can be broadcast all over the world. And again, it is outside of the normal digital tracking that we experience on the internet. So I'm going to stop the screen share for the moment. And Randy, welcome. And I just wanted to go over that. I'm going to unmute you. Let's see, you are muted. And let's see.
Yeah, okay, thanks. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. So you can see that, and I'm starting off the session to basically go right to the heart of the matter, is what we're creating with the PHONEWORD Workshops Global Directory is a way for all of us to communicate and connect on a peer-to-peer basis that is outside the normal digital tracking that we're all subject to. And there's nothing particularly wrong with that. It's just that this is an alternative to that. So that's what we're going to be talking about in this particular session. And let's, Randy, any questions you have before I get into this? We're going to be talking about IPFS as well as decentralized networking and decentralized connectivity, peer-to-peer.
Nope, I'm good. Thanks.
Okay. So I'll go back to screen sharing and get into the presentation. So we're going to go over today in basically less than 30 minutes. What are decentralized networks? What is the interplanetary file system? IPFS.io is the website you can go to. What are the benefits? What's a canary? And then have a little brief period for questions and feedback. And Randy, if you wouldn't mind muting for the moment. So that's okay. Appreciate it. So here's what our past workshops have covered. This is a project that came together during HackFS, which was a global event that brought together about 470 of the top developers around the world in the decentralized space. And that was from July 6th through August the 6th of 2020. And we formed a team and basically picked up on a project that I've been working on for a number of years and basically are bringing that to life. So we have these workshops every Thursday, and you can tune in at 9 a.m. Pacific or 9 a.m. Arizona time. And we've gone over an introduction. We are focusing on Raspberry Pis, although it doesn't need Raspberry Pis. You can run this in the cloud. And we're creating a global directory where you can claim listings and participate in the Web 3.0. We've gone over a little bit of public key encryption and how that's important, had an open session. We've talked about peer-to-peer messaging, which you just saw. We also talked about a fundamental concept, which is called hashing. And today we're talking about the interplanetary file system, or IPFS, and decentralized networks. And although our global directory is not confined to IPFS, it is the platform and the protocol that we're initially using for the global directory as well as peer-to-peer connectivity. So here is a definition of decentralized computing. Oops. And this is taken from Wikipedia. So in a nutshell, decentralized computing is the allocation of resources, both hardware and software, to each individual workstation or office location. In contrast, centralized computing exists when the majority of functions are carried out or obtained from a remote central location. So the big benefit to you as somebody who's participating in the digital world is that you start to have more control over your resources, both your hardware as well as your software, as well as the data that you're creating and the content that you're creating, as well as the connectivity. So this is a way for you to take control over your digital existence and life. There's nothing wrong with a centralized computing construct or architecture. It's what what's gotten us to this point. The thing that you might not fully appreciate at this point is that you are trusting a third party regarding some of your most valuable assets, which is your data content and your connectivity. Now, you might trust these institutions, these companies, these enterprises, these constructs today, but there's no guarantee that those institutions, enterprises, and so forth are going to be the same tomorrow. With what we're showing you on this peer-to-peer basis, we're showing you something that you have control over, where you're trusting, you're pulling the trust and the responsibility to yourself. So this is a classic diagram of the difference between centralized versus decentralized and distributed. And although I'm saying decentralized, we're really talking about distributed to the far right-hand side, the C diagram, although it's generally called decentralized. But what we've relied upon at this point in the internet and in our connectivity and communications is centralized architecture, where we're talking to centralized services like large internet service providers or services that provide social media or cloud connectivity and so forth. So this is what we're used to on the far left, the centralized A, and this is over on the far right, the C architecture is what we're moving to and what we're demonstrating today and what I just showed you with the peer-to-peer connectivity and messaging. So you can also think of it like this. Up until this point, we've relied upon centralized institutions, architectures, and so forth, sort of like a king and queen on the left-hand side of the screen. Nothing wrong with that, but we're basically turning over our trust and our responsibility to these centralized constructs. With the decentralized or distributed, you can think of it more like a football stadium, or actually the football stadium spills into the entire world. And the part of the phenomenon that we're exploring is, imagine this world of all people, all humanity coming to agreement, coming to consensus, coming to decentralized governance, where we're able to push the power and the empowerment out to the peers, in other words, you and me, and we don't necessarily have to rely upon these centralized constructs. This is a phenomenal occurrence. It's subtle, but it's extremely powerful. And if you can imagine the stadium actually being divided at least in two, where you've got people on one side that are rooting for one team and people are on another side are rooting for another team, and yet they're able to come to agreement and consensus. And it's through the power of the market. And it's even more dramatic because these people that are in this stadium, this global stadium, if you will, might actually be mortal enemies outside of this particular context, and yet they're coming to agreement. So that's pretty phenomenal. Here is a TED Talk that was done by Juan Bonet, who is the founder of the Interplanetary File System, and this was done in 2016. You can see it's got almost 120,000 views. It was a TEDx talk in San Francisco. Juan does an excellent job of demonstrating how this decentralized web 3.0 works, or distributed web, why it's important to you, and why this is worthy of your attention. And you can see on Juan's shirt that he's wearing, he's actually wearing a diagram of what I showed you in the last slide, or this slide. He's showing this diagram on item C on his shirt, because he's actually one of the pioneers that's bringing this distributed networking and web to life. So we had a demonstration, but I'm going to go back to that and show you a couple other things. Well, before I do that, let me check in with Randy. Randy, do you have any questions? Anything you'd like to ask at this point before we go into a demo? You're on mute. There you go.
There you go. Yeah. Actually, I did watch that TED Talk. I really enjoyed it. And he gives some of the key concepts that really describe why the interplanetary file system has so much promise. And I know you'll probably share that with at some other time, but I really enjoyed that TED Talk. So no other questions though.
Thank you. Awesome. So let's go back to the screen share, and I'll go back to to this, and I'll basically show you how this works. And let's clear this off, stop this, clear it. So now let's just go to one view here, a single terminal. Okay, so this is basically a connection to one of the Raspberry Pis that I showed you a moment ago. And if I put in IPFS daemon and I hit enter, okay, so I have to shut down the daemon on this. Bear with me just a moment. Okay, so let's try this again. If I put in IPFS daemon, okay, here it's going to fire up. This is going to start a service in this Raspberry Pi that is basically talking to many other Raspberry Pis or other interplanetary file system peers all over the world. So you can see that it's listening on several different connections, several different channels, and it actually has a web user interface that I won't go over right now. But if we go to this channel now and clear this off, and we put in IPFS swarm peers, you can see all these different peers. These represent other peers all over the world that this Raspberry Pi is talking to. So all of these peers are now connected to this Raspberry Pi, and they're forming this mesh network around the world. And that becomes extremely powerful. So going back to our presentation, and I won't go to ipfs.io, I'll let you do that at your leisure, but you can go to the website ipfs.io and you can learn more about IPFS. But basically what I just showed you on the Raspberry Pi is this mesh of distributed computing that basically forms a connection, a network all over the world. And that is at the heart of what we're talking about. So we've created the PHONEWORD Workshops global directory, and it's just in a prototype phase at this point. But this gives you a sense of how we are marrying human-friendly identifiers like 1111 PHONEWORD Workshops to a machine-friendly address like this QM, this whole string of numbers and letters and so forth. And that becomes powerful. It becomes like an alternative to the domain name system. It becomes something that gives you greater control over your data, your connectivity, and your digital existence. So in the PHONEWORD Workshops, we provide various videos, websites, and books to help you understand why this is value to you. We have something called a Canary, and I'll show you that right now, which is one of the Raspberry Pis that I was just demonstrating. This is a Canary, which is a Raspberry Pi in the back right here, which actually I could probably take the back off of this, but you can see the back. There's the Raspberry Pi, that's a Raspberry Pi 4, and that's the little computer that's running this touch screen, and you can see some of the IPFS information right there. And we will be, we're focusing on this Canary, this way to get into this decentralized distributed network via this, and we'll be rolling out additional services and items that will likely be of interest to you. So let me go back to the presentation, and we'll quickly go through that, and then
So Jay, if you don't mind, you could
sure.
almost call it a tablet with the Raspberry Pi as the operating system, and which allows those who are inclined to to code and to learn how to uh, create their own functionality on a computer or tablet. It gives you much more freedom to do that. So that's why it's very attractive to me as well.
Right. It's extremely powerful, extremely flexible. The Raspberry Pi, if you're not familiar with it, was designed to teach basically young people how to compute or how to get into computing. Now, if you're not technically savvy, not to worry. We are setting this up so it's as simple as possible for you to use and to start to control things in your home and connect to services in a way, again, where you're outside the normal digital tracking that is happening behind the scenes with our internet connections. So don't worry about it if all of this stuff looks foreign to you. We are creating a set of services that you can use and that are designed to be valuable to you, even if you don't know anything about computing. So let me get back to the screen share, and we'll walk through that. And so here's our address on this peer-to-peer network, which is 1111 PhoneWord Workshops with the dashes. You can become a Desert Blockchain citizen and have the rights to claim 2 listings, one of which you pick that can spell a phrase that's appropriate and valuable to you, and the other one is either tied to your cell phone number or telephone number, or is basically picked at random. And we're rolling out a marketplace for these addresses that spell various phrases, and you'll be able to create services and use cases behind those phrases, or you might decide to put them up for sale on the market, or you could do both, similar to what you do with an internet domain today. So this is available to HackFS participants. We'll extend that probably till the end of the year for HackFS participants. And it's also available to Desert Blockchain citizens. And this presentation will be part of the YouTube video recording, so you can go to these links. We don't have any current listings right now, but we will, so stay tuned. Do want to caution you that this is an experimental project. All listings are subject to change or removable at any time. We are building this. This is a prototype. This is a proof of concept. But if you participate in this, our intention is that you will be able to retain your directory listings and basically perfect your title in those listings over time. So we're also offering a 60-day money-back guarantee on any Canary equipment that you purchase through Desert Blockchain LLC through the end of the year. So you really don't have any downside if you purchase one of these devices. So here's our contact information. If you're on the PubSub channel, you can connect with us this way. That's PhoneWord Workshops. There is additional material in the back, which I won't go over right now, but you can peruse that at your leisure. So that's basically it for today. Randy, anything that you would like to add?
The only other thing is you publish these videos on YouTube as well, right?
Correct. It's under the PhoneWord Workshops. You can go to phonewordworkshops.com and look at the YouTube channel and see get a listing of the videos that we've done in the past. So that's a good point. Thank you.
And I'd like to encourage anyone, Jay is a very open and willing to accept anybody who wants to participate, and will definitely encourage you to create your own applications that might work with this service, and therefore you'll be part of something that we hope will establish itself as a long-term value to the world.
Exactly. And you can sign up for these and get information on meetup.com/desert-blockchain. So, which will also be in the video notes below. So thank you for your time and your attention. Please feel free to reach out to me, Jay Carpenter, and my contact information will be associated with in the presentation as well as the notes below. So tune in again, and this is the start of something that, as Randy said, we intend to offer a new level of empowerment to basically anybody in the world who's interested in participating in this movement towards Web 3.0. So thank you. Have a good day, and we look forward to your future participation.